At precisely 3 a.m. on the chilling morning of February 2nd, 1502, an unsettling cry sliced through the stone corridors of Este Castle. It was not the scream of fear, nor one of agony. It was far more disturbing, more ominous. The sound echoed through the halls like an ancient warning, a prelude to an event of such magnitude that it would echo throughout history. The guards lowered their gazes in silence, as they understood what was unfolding within the ducal chambers. Diplomats and courtiers exchanged furtive, anxious glances. Each of them was fully aware that what they were hearing was not some moment of private passion, but the final act of a dangerous, secretive ritual of political power that was being enacted behind closed doors in Renaissance Europe. As Ferrara slumbered under a blood-red moon, the outcome of that night would alter the course of Italian politics. What began in a royal bedchamber, intimate, yet filled with deeper meaning, would forever change the political landscape. This event was so intensely strategic, so closely intertwined with power, that official documents locked it away for nearly 5 centuries, hidden from the world's gaze. When those documents finally surfaced, they revealed the unimaginable, how a 22-year-old woman transformed her very body into the deadliest weapon of diplomacy her world had ever known. This wasn't just about passion, it was about the ruthless use of the body as a tool of survival, an act so potent it had the power to shift dynasties. Picture this, a royal bedchamber, where every sigh and every breath carries unimaginable weight. In this room, a woman's flesh is not just the source of desire, but a battlefield, where the consummation of marriage is far more than a private act of romance. It's ritualized warfare, capable of toppling empires, forging alliances, and cementing political futures. What you are about to uncover is far more than the truth of a scandalous wedding night. This is a revelation of a hidden, sexual protocol, one so explicit and so politically dangerous that it was buried for centuries in the deepest corners of Europe's most confidential archives. In this dark, forbidden corner of history, you will find how Lucrezia Borgia, a woman twice widowed through political murders, morphed from an innocent pawn into a powerful predator, wielding her body as a weapon. Her transformation from a mere object of lust to a political powerhouse will leave you breathless. The carefully orchestrated consummation of her marriage would serve as the cornerstone for a dynasty, setting in motion events that would shape the very future of Italy. A night spoken of only in whispers, a single, fleeting moment, captured in just 3 words, spoken by a royal chancellor, whose words became the story of an entire era. What you are about to witness is not just the unearthing of a wedding night. This is the hidden, brutal reality of political protocol, so secretive, so sexually charged, that it remained locked away from public knowledge for centuries. Prepare to have your understanding of sex, power, and politics in the Renaissance forever shattered. If the intensity of this moment has already gripped you, just imagine the depths we're about to plunge into. Before we delve further, be sure to like this video if you're ready to continue unearthing these long-buried protocols that reshaped empires. And leave a comment below telling us which queen, duchess, or courtesan's darkest secrets you want to see revealed. The one mentioned most will be the focus of our next investigation. Subscribe and hit the bell because these truths are only revealed to those brave enough to join our secret brotherhood. Now, let's travel back to 1502, the height of Borgia power. Pope Alexander VI, a man who controlled Italy through masterful political marriages, had turned his children into weapons of diplomacy. The political stage was set, and Italy was divided into rival factions. Every marriage was a calculated treaty, every wedding night a battle for survival. The duchies of Ferrara, Milan, Naples, and the Papal States, fragile alliances, each sealed with a marriage and consummated under the watchful eyes of officials. For the Este family of Ferrara, the stakes were higher than ever. Duke Ercole had gambled his family's future on the alliance with the Borgias. His son, Alfonso d'Este, was now the living embodiment of that gamble. A deal had been struck, with the marriage of Alfonso to Lucrezia Borgia, a political match made for survival, not love. The negotiations were completed by December 30th, 1501, and the price for this political alliance was staggering. Lucrezia's dowry was 100,000 gold ducats, enough to finance entire cities for a year. But the true cost was not in gold, but in flesh. The wedding night would determine the fate of nations. At the time, the Borgia family wasn't just known for their scandals, they were feared for their ruthless use of sexual diplomacy. Marriage wasn't about love, it was about survival. It was about consolidating power, forming alliances, and ensuring the legitimacy of dynasties. The marriage bed was the battlefield. There was no room for failure. To fail on this night, to fail to consummate the marriage properly, was to risk the downfall of everything. Dynasties could fall, wars could erupt, and families could be torn apart. Lucrezia's first 2 marriages were disasters. Giovanni Sforza had been accused of impotence, a blow that shattered her reputation. Her second husband, Alfonso of Aragon, was strangled to death in the Vatican, a victim of papal intrigue and power struggles. But Lucrezia was no helpless victim. She had survived, learned, and evolved. Now, at 22, she wielded her beauty, intelligence, and sensuality as weapons, carefully cultivated to ensure her survival and future success. She was not simply a political pawn, she had become a predator. Enter Alfonso d'Este. A man of power, intellect, and raw physical strength. At 25, Alfonso was a soldier and an engineer who crafted his own cannons. He exuded an aura of power without the need for extravagant displays. Unlike the feeble courtiers at other Italian courts, Alfonso commanded respect. He was a warrior with the soul of a Renaissance prince, cultured, refined, and strategic. The collision of Lucrezia's weaponized sexuality and Alfonso's unshakable strength was nothing short of explosive. Their meeting on January 3rd had already ignited a spark between them, one that no political strategist could have predicted. But their wedding night on February 2nd, 1502, was far more than a simple consummation. It was an act of political power, calculated and meticulously planned. The entire city of Ferrara became a stage, the streets lined with citizens cheering Lucrezia as she entered, draped in a luxurious gown, her neck adorned with diamonds and rubies that gleamed in the pale winter light. But behind those walls, an entirely different performance was unfolding, a performance of political power that had already begun to be recorded, analyzed, and documented by spies positioned within the palace. The date of their wedding was no coincidence. February 2nd, the feast of the purification of the Virgin Mary, was an act of deliberate symbolism. The sacred and the profane, fused together in one of the most powerful rituals of political legitimacy ever performed. Every detail had been meticulously planned, down to the very fabric of the wedding night. Every sigh, every gasp, every movement in the royal bedchamber was observed and recorded. This was no ordinary wedding, it was a political performance, a public act of power, where consummation was not just about sex. It was a political act that would determine the future of nations. Inside the royal apartments, the bed was surrounded by crimson velvet curtains, the stage set like a theater. Silver candelabras cast flickering shadows on the walls, illuminating Flemish tapestries that depicted war, power, and alliances. Everything in the room served as a reminder of what was truly at stake. The moment that Lucrezia and Alfonso shared in that bed would not only affect their lives, it would change the future of Italy itself. But this was not just a private matter. It was a public event, an act of diplomacy that demanded proof, witnesses, and documentation. In Renaissance Italy, marriage consummation was a political act, a performance that had to be validated by witnesses, who would later record the event in official records. The royal bed was not just a place of intimacy, it was a courtroom. The sexual performance of the royal couple was scrutinized as intensely as any diplomatic treaty. For the Borgia and Este families, this consummation was a matter of political survival. Lucrezia knew the stakes better than anyone. She had learned from her past marriages that any weakness could be fatal. Giovanni Sforza's impotence had brought public humiliation. Alfonso of Aragon's death had shown her that a failed marriage could bring about political ruin. But this time, Lucrezia was no longer a victim. She was a strategist, ready to wield her body as a weapon to secure her survival. And so the ritual began. The first consummation carried an intensity that neither Lucrezia nor Alfonso had expected. It was a mix of real passion and political necessity, an electric charge that both startled and thrilled them. Duty and desire became one. What had started as a performance was now a lived experience, a moment that would decide the fate of their marriage, their families, and their nation. But it wasn't over yet. The second consummation was recorded by Isabella d'Este's chancellor, a covert spy positioned to document every detail. The royal bed became a stage once again, every movement, every gasp carefully noted, as if the fate of Ferrara, and perhaps all of Italy, depended on it. By the time the third and final act was performed, the ritual was complete. It was no longer just a private affair between husband and wife. It had become the creation of an unbreakable political alliance. Alfonso's strength and endurance were proven beyond doubt, while Lucrezia's resilience and political savvy were clear for all to see. Together, they had transformed a dangerous test into a triumph, one that would resonate for years to come. The ritual of February 2nd, 1502, left behind not just a record, but a legacy. From that night forward, political unions in Renaissance Italy were forever changed. The royal bedchamber was no longer a private space. It was a battlefield, a courtroom, a stage where the future of nations was decided. This night marked the beginning of Lucrezia's transformation from pawn to power broker. No longer just a beautiful but vulnerable woman, she had become a key player in a dangerous game. She had mastered the art of sexual diplomacy, using intimacy not just to survive, but to thrive. Her power, once rooted in her beauty, was now anchored in her ability to navigate the treacherous waters of political power. Lucrezia Borgia had proven that in the world of Renaissance Italy, sex and power were inextricably linked. And she would wield both with deadly precision. Her story, her transformation, stands as one of the most extraordinary examples of a woman seizing control in a world designed to crush her. She turned her body into a tool of survival, a weapon in the high-stakes world of Italian politics. And her legacy would echo through the centuries, reminding us that even the most intimate of acts can change the course of history. If you think you've heard it all, think again. Stay tuned as we continue to unearth the hidden histories of powerful women who reshaped empires. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with those who dare to learn the untold stories of history's most dangerous women. This is just the beginning.